What up, though? Welcome back. So, last episode, I talked to you guys about taking calculated risk, right? Having faith in the most important thing, which is you, and taking calculated risk and trying to go after whatever it is your tangible desires are of manifesting whatever it is your purpose, whatever it is you want to bring about, if it's material things, if it's relationship, if it's economic, if it's career, if it's entrepreneurial, taking the calculated risk necessary by believing in yourself, having the faith necessary required to believe in the vision you have set for yourself, and then going after that, right? And then if you watch the lives that I said and that I posted, I've talked about where are you in your process of your journey as you go forward to the attainment of the tangible manifestation of whatever it is you want to bring about. Now, there's two things I want to address, and it's been brought to my attention when viewed from someone close to me and people close to me about what I said about the process. And I was talking about in the live in the process, I was talking about my particular point on my journey in the process. And I was talking about the company that I have that's a parent company to Minor Tech, Kane Ross. And I was bringing up the real time that the company is going through non-favorable moments, basically struggling a little bit with trying to get new contracts and bring on new clients. And the person had great intent, coming to me, and they did just fine by sharing with me. But I do believe they misunderstood why I create this platform. And I want to make sure I'm clear on two folds today that I'm going to address, not just addressing this particular portion of the conversation I had with this person, but and not to say they're wrong, because again, what their thought or their projection to me, you may have the same thought. And I want to make it clear why I said what I said in the live about my current process. And I gave examples to my relationship as well as the profession, my career that's generating the income and taking care of my livelihood, right? As a primary source of it. And I have other means of income coming in, but the primary source that is struggling a little bit. And so what was brought to my attention was that it said that, you don't want to project that, right? The negative or the struggle, right? And what my response, even in what I was saying about the process, to anyone who's listening to my, to podcast and supporting me here on this, and you're supporting me by listening, and I appreciate that, whether you agree or disagree. But my response to you, if you're thinking that by me sharing the process that's real, that you as an individual, that I go through, it's never the, and it should never be the culmination of the success. And that's when you speak, because that gives a false narrative to what the reality that we all are going through, which is the process. And the process itself is a struggle. This is why we all live what we call life. And this is why some of us get frustrated and get depressed and get sad and, get lonely at times or get isolated and don't talk to people or whatever it may be, is because there's a process to this. And depending upon how we go through the process and grow through the process, will depict how soon and then how sustainable the tangible manifestation or the seemingly success will either last or continue to grow. Now, again, the person was saying, okay, well, I have said before how the company's doing well, and the company was doing well at that time. And just because the company is going through a struggling point doesn't mean the company's still not doing well. It just means that the company's going through a struggling point. And it's interesting to me. A few months ago, if you invest, if you're familiar with large, $1 trillion companies, and you might say, "But they're $1 trillion companies." Again, we can't do that. Struggle still struggle, because the only way they got the $1 trillion company or got to that position is because of people seeing, and believing in the dips, the ebbs, the flows, but for the most part, sustaining a certain level of excellence. So a few months ago, NVIDIA was struggling because they made some moves and people were questioning the moves they were making as far as collaboration. They weren't posting as far as what the earnings were. Things were happening with the tariffs and different things. And so people were questioning if they have power. Then it comes out they make collaborations and they join forces with some other major companies. And and now their valuation is back over the 5 trillion or $10 trillion that it is right now, right? Again, we can't look at just the overall successes of individuals or companies and say, okay, well, you only speak on it then, because the fruits of my success I'm sharing with you, because it goes back to the seemingly successes or seemingly failures and the real struggles that are to get to the seemingly successes and work through the seemingly failures is paramount, because it's part of the process. It's par for the course. But this is also why too I'm so adamant about sharing the reels of when I close a $500,000 deal, or when I'm possibly losing a $500,000 deal. I'm sharing it because you need to see the consistency of my energy deliverables, because my 5 principles of my inner tech are based off of you understanding at every phase of the process. These are unwavering. These 5 principles are not dogmatic. They're not based off of, like I said before, they're not surrounded by your economic status, not surrounded by or supported by your ethnicity, or supported upon where you are regionally in the world, whether you are, third world, second world, or first world. It's not dependent upon your political status. It's not dependent upon your gender, or who you sleep with. It's based off of basic first principle kind of concepts, but principles that are fundamental across all planes. So this is where I'll address the second point. The reason why I started this platform, and I am talking the way I'm talking, delivering as much consistency and straightforwardness to you all on this platform, is because it's based off of, like I said, the 5 major principles that I have used over the past decade plus now to help me when it seemed as if things were dire and I couldn't get to the next point. These 5 principles help me, because I've always done them. It's just over the past few years, I realized what they actually were, and sequentially how I've been delivering them to myself. And these principles I've gotten from, if you heard me say in the last episode, Jim Rohn, Napoleon Hill, my father, my close friend mentors and female mentors, that I have that are in my life that run different companies. I've gotten this from professors. I've gotten this from celebrities that I work with. And I've gotten these all in bits and pieces, and I've meshed them into these 5 principles. And it didn't dawn on me, like I said, till a few years ago, that these were the 5 major things that I do, not based upon dogmas, not putting dogmas or sects down of religious category. But I do believe that we need to have a divergence into principles that have an open deliverable to them, because again, it's not based off if you don't fit this class, or you don't fit this group, or you don't fit this circumstance or this political dynamic, right? These run true no matter where you are, because the goal for you, whoever you are, and whatever religion or whatever part of the world you're in, or whatever economic status you currently are or want to get to, or you may be in and want to sustain, these principles stand the test of time, man. They just do. So the 5 principles that I want to make sure I convey again, and I'm being so clear because I don't want you thinking again that it's based off of a sect, or based off of a political ideology, or based off of some educational level, higher level of esoteric thinking and doctoral knowledge base. It's not. This can be delivered if you follow the way I'm giving it to you, the way I've used it, the way I'm using it. Hence why I speak on the process. Hence why I spoke on the struggle that is for my business right now, my company, not in the sense that I know that we can't get through it and work through it, because we're working through it during the time. I'm bringing it so you can understand that I am not exempt or above the fray of going through. Just because you see me in a villa in Bali, Indonesia, and I'm in Bali, Indonesia, well, he must be doing all this other stuff that we want to now position. We want to place a level on someone that's, or they must be, well, they got there because of it. No, we got there, and I'm here because of, and even while I'm here because of the 5 principles, I also still have to work the 5 principles, because just because you see me being here doesn't mean that everything is the, liquidity of, 8.9 million in the account. And, I'm on yachts and boats with, beautiful models, because I like women, model women, whatever it might be. it needs to be an understanding that you too going through your struggle right now is your part of your process. And my point to bring up what I brought up the other day was I need you to be clear what is your real struggle right now. And at this point along your process, your journey, let's talk about it so we can get clarity and see how we can help one another and what tools are you instituting to help you through your process. And do these tools that you're using, do they fall in somewhere along the line of the 5 principles that I talk about, that I've talked about ad nauseum, and I will continue to talk about here on this platform because it's what I base it off of, my daily activity. These 5 principles, if they fall in line somewhere in here, are they in the sequential order, right? And if they're not, if you're doing 2, but you're missing, 4, why aren't we doing, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then getting to 5 if we don't even know what 5 is, right? Or if we're doing 5, why are we skipping that, skipping 1 through 4? This is why I'm bringing this system to you because again, and I have to be clear and be the example, not just when things are going great or seemingly great. It needs to be delivered when things are a little shaky so you can say and I can say too, oh, I kept it a buck with you guys, I kept it 100 with you. No, it wasn't always like, oh, we just closed this deal with this company, we closed this deal with this company, we sitting here on top of the world, we win and whoop-de-whoop. And you like, well, bro, you were able to do that. No, you're tracking with me. Yes, while I'm still here in Indonesia, I'm working on closing a deal that should be very, very lucrative for us. But right now, it seems like it's struggling, like it may not come through. And again, I have to continue working. But what I do is same thing I talked to you about, taking calculated risks, the way I talk to the client, the way I negotiate the deal, the way I believe daily when I wake up and I give gratitude that it will close and it will bring about the success that I want because I had the vision 2.5, 3 years ago, and really I had the vision 8 years ago when I started the company that we will be a success. But saying that you will be a success also means you have to be willing to work through what is the reality that sometimes things are going to drop or things are going to possibly even fall out. But do you have the belief, or do we have the belief? Do I have the belief? The belief is not my words, it's the actions, the tools that I do daily saying that it's going to work out, but then doing the work that we talked about in calculated risk taking, the faith, the works and the faith is not me just say praying and sitting down and asking the powers that be, hey, can you help me? No, they're like, hey, yo, bro, did you send out this email? Did you research the market and see, okay, what they're charging here and who the competitors are and what they're bringing to the table? Have you been able to find people to speak on you on your behalf? Are you doing the work? Are you staying up late because you're on a different time zone and not sleeping sometimes in order to make sure you can deliver and talk to the people that you need to talk to make sure you're getting it done? That's the work. So therefore, when it does close, however it's going to close, and when I say however it's going to close, however it tangibly looks to the outside world, how it's going to close is what that needs to be. But what I know in here and in here in that middle part is that I'm still going towards my goal and my dream and my desired outcome of what it is that me and the higher power or higher powers have talked about, that we are going to be a success. But you have to work the process. And what we can no longer do as a group of people is continue just trying to show the highlights and talk about what is the seemingly good moment at the time. The reason why I like these principles is because it gives you the foundation, it gives you the ability to go back to and trust and believe in what you said you are going to do to unfold what we talked about in the calculated risk. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone has illuminated a light within them that they need to illuminate so therefore someone else can see it. Well, we need to make sure we understand and showing that sometimes we shine so bright and we're at our apex of the success that we shine so bright that we don't even talk about the struggle and the pain until we talk about it in our memoirs. And then at that point, it's a number of people along that journey that were with you that if they had heard that you were at a point of, oh, I couldn't make anymore. My relationship was possibly, on the fritz after showing for 10 years. We were, the ideal dream couple. If you had said something then, right, you never know again who you can affect that would move them in a direction where they think is bleak and that it's not going to work out for them. If you're willing to be transparent with respect again and if you're dealing with yourself well enough along your journey, you're not dependent upon the validation of what they may or may not think. You're staying true to the truth of your path is your path. No matter how beautiful or ugly it may be, you know that it's going to culminate in what it needs to culminate for. And so you're open and strong enough to be able to deliver the truth at that moment, no matter how the outside world may perceive it. And so when that person said to me that they thought that how I was bringing up the negative of where things were and it's making me perceived a certain way. No, I've already had my coming to Jesus, if you will, right? Again, not to say it specifically, but to be funny. But I've already talked to on a daily basis the energies that are within me and the energy that is bigger than me to make sure that what I sit down and talk to you guys about, I believe is what is necessary for me to deliver because I'm being true in what it is. I'm not being fake and phony. I'm not sitting here saying, hey, I'm out here in Bali, yo, it's lit. I'm turned. You know what I'm saying? My bank account is strong as all get out. You know, I got, this amount of money in the bank and I ain't stressing about nothing. You need to do the same thing. You're like, okay, that sounds good, but you have really turned me off because that doesn't mean anything. Great for you, but what's the real? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you get there? What was the struggle? What is the struggle like right now while you're doing it? Right? Because that's the real, right? And in that we can work on together. And because I'm at peace with this, whatever the struggle is at that moment, it's just that. It's just a struggle at that moment. It's not the final and it's not the end all to what and who I am as a person working on delivering my purpose to the world. You show me anybody that, and I said this in the other episodes. You show me anybody that's made seemingly major success in their life, whether it be economic, famous, business, political, to be at the apex of anything, doctor, whatever it is, they've had to overcome and grow and go through things. And even when they're there, they're going through things 9 out of 10 times. You tell me who's on top that didn't go through something. One of my mentors is Nelson Mandela. I don't know if you read his autobiography, but you should definitely read his autobiography. Just going through him being a lawyer, him being against apartheid and fighting, and then getting wrongfully locked up and wrongfully accused, and his 20 or 30 plus year lockup, and the peak of his adult and career professional, he was locked up. But even him, when he got out, first black leader of a nation, he went through a divorce, in latter years. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a negative thing. But so, to some, it seemed like, oh, I can't go through divorce. Oh, people don't go through struggle. I'm sure that was still emotionally struggling for him because, again, he had family. That was a woman he was with for predominantly majority part of his, fighting career, being locked up and all that. And then he goes through a divorce, right? I'm saying that to say there's examples if we look at it, everyone, even at the peak of what they're going through, you look at, in entertainment in the States, uh, Jamie, and this was a health issue. Jamie Foxx, I bring him up because again, he's famous, so you can bring it, you can see it. But he went through a health scare, right? And here's a man who's multi-talented, great guy, great energy, you know what I'm saying, pure. But he went through a health scare and still relative at the peak of his career. Even though he's been doing it for so long, but still at the peak of his career, he still has a lot more to give, right? People go through things, is what I'm saying. And to act as if because you have an audacious goal or you feel like you want to achieve something, and because you're going through your process right now and it's seeming like it's not necessarily where you want it to be, and to act like once you get there it's going to be all okay, it's still going to be new problems called for new devils, right? It's always going to be something. So what we have to have, basically what I'm saying, real conversation to understand we don't need to keep projecting the whole problem that we have with social media, and we still currently do in certain cases and on Instagram or on TikTok, is we always say people show the highlight, right? They post a curated picture of, the girl on the yacht, you know what I'm saying? She got the one quote, sassy little line, right? Or the workout picture, the great angled shot, right? But you're not showing the work, right? And people get frustrated with that because kids, adults, even young adults and adults are thinking if I can't do it at that level, then what's the point of me doing it, right? But me having this conversation, you sitting here listening to me and going deeper and not just taking the first snippet you hear, or just trying to sit on, a position of, you think you know better, but still work with me, talk with me, understand what I'm trying to say here and what we're trying to build here, which is leaning towards principles that are true, tried, and tested, and that are sound, and don't have an angle of you need to be in this class, you need to be this way, or you need to wait until here, or do it for the after. No, do it now and do this consistently, and you'll be okay no matter what you may be, color, economics, like I said, or where you may be intellectually, if you're, high school graduate or doctor. It doesn't matter, and none of this matters. What matters is these 5 principles being delivered to you on a daily basis. And when they do, when you hit that part of your process, I go back to it, and when you hit that part of your process where things are on the outside to everyone else looking good, or they may not be looking good, you can go to these principles and deliver them, and you will feel like you have a footing to be able to at least tread the water until you can get to a point of elevation to where now you can feel like, okay, I'm good now. I can control it. I can dive back in if I want to. I got my floaties on, or I got a chance to be up here on land and get some teaching for a little bit to go back in when things get a little bit shaky, right? That's what these principles are about. And I bring up my process because me sitting here, I never want to give the illusion, the falsehood that what you see me being able to say I am and doing and where I am, it has been given because it's been taken, and it's been diligent, and it's been systematically approached with effort and purity, as well as understanding, while still being blessed with some of the tangible manifestations of the overall goal I'm looking for. There still are major elements along the way where things are a struggle. And the struggle is not one that I can't deal with. The struggle is real, but what's even more real is my ability to work through it because of the 5 principles. So I hope all that makes sense. And what I want to, just move back towards is understanding, if you don't understand what my 5 principles are, if you haven't seen the other videos, because you're only seeing this one video, or you're only seeing maybe the lives that I posted or whatever it may be, um, I'm going to address what my 5 principles are, and I'm going deeper into them. I go deeper into them in the Patreon on lives. I do discuss, and we can go back and forth. If you show up on live and ask questions, be in the chat. I will talk to you in the chat. The 5 principles are simple, and they have depth to them. So they're not just, I'm just giving you the overall thing, general title to the 5 principles, but each one of them has depth and tools and strategies within them to help you understand how to use them on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, decade, later, you know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth. First principle is deep rest. I've talked about this in depth in step 1. Go back and check out that video. But overall, quick point: getting your rest, allowing your body to completely decompress and reboot itself. Generally, we're speaking to just the overall premise: getting deep, long, good quality rest at night. This is the thing. Most of you are not doing that. Whether you feel like your workload is too crazy, you're working 2 or 3 jobs, you have kids, little ones, whatever your reason is, you need to figure it out. And I have tools and steps to that. Go check out step 1, video step 1 on deep rest. But you have to figure it out by taking the action and doing the work, and then putting the belief in that by doing it this way, it will work itself out, right? Once you do that, step 1, then we go on to step 2. When we get to step 2, the whole premise of step 2 is gratitude. When you give gratitude, the most important thing is, this is where we start the whole connecting to the higher powers. And whatever your dogma or your deity or belief is, that's fine. Do that. I'm not against that. But I guess request is, make sure you're connecting to it the right way, not just asking for the energy that it's already blessed you with. But by giving gratitude, starting your morning and your day off with the step 2, which is gratitude, you're now able to give thanks to the higher power, which gets the communication and the open door, if you will, to them to say, hey, they do appreciate what I'm doing for them. They do appreciate and understand that, yeah, it may not look the best, for in this area, but they do appreciate over here these 40, 50 other things that they're blessed with, 2 arms, 2 legs, a relationship, family, some money in your pocket. It may not be all the money in your pocket, right? The ability to think clearly, be able to research, be able to tap into Chat GPT or Google if you have Wi-Fi. If you don't have access to that, you're like, look, I have the ability to get to a cafe, to get to the Wi-Fi for an hour a day, but thank you for that, right? So you're opening the communication to the higher powers by saying and giving gratitude, and more importantly, you're setting your energies in a positive direction to start your day, to make sure you're not focusing on the negative, and therefore you're aligning your energies. I talked about the law of attraction. That was a book earlier early 2000s that ran rampant because it was talking about putting one's energies to attract what you want to attract, and then vision boards and all this other stuff came about. But you can do this just by saying giving gratitude. So that's step 2. Step 3 is deep stillness. Deep stillness, again, I don't care what your modality is to get into your deep stillness, but what I'm saying is I don't care if it's prayer, if it's meditation, if it's mantras, if it's breath work, whatever it is, it needs to be done consistently. And in that, and generally, normally it's between meditation and prayer, we're able to sit down and convene with that higher power, whatever you call it, Allah, God, Mary Magdalene, whatever, Buddha, whatever you call it, you still want to have set aside time for deep stillness so you can connect with that power. The purpose of prayer, the purpose of meditation is to elevate oneself to be able to be in conversation with those powers that are within you, that have blessed you with the ability to be able to do what it is you are seeking to do. The problem is when we don't sit down and we're not still and be in deep stillness, we're not able to connect with that power. And we're wondering why we're running around with our head like a chicken with our head cut off, because we're trying to do it on our own, and we don't allow ourselves to have enough conversation and communion with that power that's within us. Think about it like this: if you go to mosque, go to temple, the reason why I'll speak from what I do know as far as I came from a church. It used to be Sunday, you go for Sunday school early in the morning, then you go to the regular church service, and then you might stay after for dinner, right? It used to be back in the day. Then you have devotion on Wednesday, right? And then if you really had a strong church, you got, if you were in the choir, all this other stuff. But the reason why is because it gives you these multiple points, hopefully where you're in communion with and talking, or being able to learn and be able to be in conversation with the higher power. So think about it. If step 3 is saying, again, you choose to just, connect to your deity on your own by just having deep stillness on a daily basis, where you're getting, if it's 7 days a week and you're doing it for 20 minutes, and then sometimes it goes into say 45 minutes, or if you're just doing it for 5 minutes and, it goes into 9 minutes, you're giving yourself, you extrapolate that. If you're doing 7 days a week at 5 minutes, you know what I'm saying? You do 7 times 5, right? 35 or whatever it is. Then and then you multiply that by weeks, by months, by years. You're having great connectivity with that higher power, which will give you the energy necessary and keep your energies at a level where you can continue pushing for your purpose. You see how that works? So that's why step 3 is so important. Then we go into step 4. Step 4 is a 2-part, which I talked about this already, but step 4 is a 2-parter. It's the physical activity portion with the nutritional component. So the first half of it is your physical activity. So once you get through with your deep sleep, you slept well in the morning, you get up, you give gratitude. Then you take step 3, you did your meditation or your prayer for a few minutes, or however long you have time to be able to get it in. Then you go into your physical activity. You go and physically move your body to take care of this one vessel you have been blessed with, in order to facilitate what you and the higher power just talked about, what you just gave thanks for. And because you're at your fullest capacity early in the morning because you got good rest, now you can go physically take your body and build on it again, tear it down to build it back up physically, but you're preparing yourself, your sympathetic nervous system, in order to be able to handle stress and shock. We're no longer sitting in societies where we are in nature and have to worry about the bear or the tiger, or if it's bad weather, extreme cold outside, we have AC or heated water running in the toilet, in the sink. We're living in societies now, we don't get that type of stress anymore to our nervous system. And so to be able to take yourself physically and move yourself, right? It's vital to your overall health capacity, right? We understand that, but it's also important too because the subconscious and the other effects that help your body and your mind to be sharp when stresses do hit. If you physically move the body and stress the body on your own, I like to say, if you heard me say before, creating hell out of paradise, right? You have to if you put yourself through hell in paradise, we're living a better life to me in majority of cases, if you're listening to this, you're living a quality life than say, 110 years ago. You just are. Even if you're not middle class or you're not, wealthy, you're still most likely, even if you're on the lower end, you're living better than we did 110, 150 years ago, right? So you don't have the same stressors. That being said, like I said, so you have to now bring the stress to yourself in order for yourself to be prepared when life wants to hit you with stress. You're not so throwed. You're not so, oh my God, I can't handle, right? And again, yes, it's case specific depending upon what kind of stress you're talking about is being thrown at you. But overall, if you're putting yourself physically in stressors by going to intense, and not every day is intense, but you have periodic intense out of 7 days. If you do three at least of intense classes, think you're good, whether it be yoga, Pilates, weight room, if you're doing sprints or running, if you're a athlete and you got to play tennis or you're playing paddle, you're going hard at it, right? You're doing drills, all that stuff. These things help you, right? And then we talked about the second half of point four, which is your nutritional prowess. That is paramount because in order to let the body run it as optimal, you don't want inflammation in the body and the joints. You want to make sure, again, blood pressure is level. You want to make sure cortisol levels are level. Everything, everything, all your baselines are level, and you need to make sure your nutrition is facilitating that. So not eating processed foods, making sure you're drinking your water, not drinking, juices and all this. And, we got into this whole kombucha, matcha, mocha, ginger. Nothing will ever beat just drinking water. I don't care where you are in the world. You can drink as much mocha chocolate as you want to, but you got to go back to water. We build cities around water, natural water sources. We build nations around that. Your body needs water. So drinking your water, getting proper protein, carbs, fats in your system, you need all those things within proper reason to create a lifestyle, which I've talked about that again in other videos. Go back and check those out. That's point number four, the second part of point number four. And then point number five, creating your personal workflow by making sure you're instituting the first four plus this fifth key on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. By you being diligent and implementing this as your personal workflow, what happens is because you'll have to fight if you have kids, scheduling your time for sleep and making sure that's non-negotiable. You have to make sure if you have children or you taking care of your elderly parents, you have to get up before the kids or the parents, to make sure that they're taken care of. You have to make sure you get your gratitude in and your deep stillness in, right? So you're constantly working with that juxtaposition of having to make sure your time is structured. That's your personal workflow. If you're a working person who travels a lot and you have different departments and different regions that you will oversee, on the southeast or southwest of the country, but you live on the East Coast, so you're traveling back and forth a lot. You have to adjust your time 2 or 3 hour difference. You have to make sure, again, if you have, Zoom calls that you have to deal with in different time zones, you have to still make sure this personal workflow is intact and you are able to get this done on a consistent basis. But once you strategically align this in your life, you find that to do the workflows of whatever your profession that you're wanting to shift into or change or whatever you're in right now. If you're a cybersecurity specialist, if you are a dark data, engineer, if you are a project manager or, overseeing a data center of, 15 different orgs, and different employees, you find that the workflow becomes easier because you already so diligently and so focused and so non-negotiable on your personal workflow that it becomes easier to structure your workflow. When you look at the C-suite execs that you admire in any industry, you look at them, you say, how do they do that? Well, they eliminated so much in their personal workflow and they structure their personal workflow to where they have now the time to deliver. They have 8,000 employees and they're overseeing, $8 billion, firm. And you're like, how do they do that? They got to go do this presentation here. They just were on CNN here. How they do that? They were on, Fox News here, and whatever it may be. And you're like, how did they do it? And they still, I see they just posted, their wife posted, and they had a party, over in the Palisades, and they seemed like they were happy and relaxed. Well, because their personal workflow is intact, so therefore, and they use that same deliverable to their work workflow. So therefore, it seems like to you as the employee or the person looking at them, like, man, they got it under control. No, it's just been years of practice. And this is why that's step number 5. Your personal workflow is you doing the first 4 and that 5th key every single day. So therefore, you can deliver to yourself everything you're looking for to be the success you want to be. So I hope this makes sense what I talked to you guys about today. I just want to break down, and I thank everybody, even the persons close to me who watched the last, the live, and confronted me about the process and talking about the seemingly negative, but it's not negative. It's a part of the process. And it's not negative because I work on my 5 principles that I just went over with you on a daily basis. And it's delivering to me the ability and the tools to be able to continue working to deliver the manifestation of the overall success that I want to, present to not only the world, but mainly to myself. So I just wanted to give you guys that conversation, and bring it to you. I thank you for your time. If you have questions, concerns, comments, like I always say, I'm not even worried about you subscribing. I want you to talk to me. Like I said, I want to develop a community where we can help each other, where we can bring out, hey, this is a tool you can use for your process right now. Hey, you said you may have been struggling right here. Matter of fact, this is what I did when I was struggling in this point, or maybe you can say, you know what, that's a struggle that you just got to be still and be patient, and it'll work its way through. Whatever, say something, or share something, that can help move it forward. What I don't want us to do here is talk out of fear, because of what we don't know. I know I don't know a lot of stuff. That's why I'm bringing stuff to you. That's why I'm asking you to talk to me, because in comment, not so much subscribe, a comment, because it help illuminates, or it sheds light to things. Even the person who had that comment to me about, they didn't think it was the right thing for me to share. It still illuminates, should I continue on this path or not? Am I saying the right thing? And it makes me go back to say, okay, do I go 10 toes down, or do I have to shift? Right. And that I am open to doing. And so that's why I'm having this conversation, brought this episode to you, because in this particular case, it made me lock in more and say, I just need to go 10 toes down, but I need to be clear on the presentation of why I'm saying what I'm saying. So they did help me in that sense, because again, it made me be a little more clear. And if I wasn't clear, let me know. But that's why I'm here, to talk to you and open this Discord, open this conversation, so we can do just that. Okay. So I appreciate you guys. Hope all's going well with you. Also, too, I want to change this phrase. I say this on my social media platform, and I've always liked it. But because I am a health guy, I hope you can tell by my little cutoff shirt, right? I like to say, live well, my friends. And so that's why in these on, live well, my friends. We'll talk shortly.